The storm outside had been fierce all night. The wind howled against the walls and the rain fell in heavy sheets that rattled the windows of the small wooden house. Inside, the room was dim and quiet, lit only by a single lamp on the table. A young man named Daniel sat by the desk, trying to keep his mind occupied with a worn book he had read many times before. He had no idea that his life was about to change forever. He heard a soft creak from the back door, but he thought it was only the storm. When he looked up, his heart skipped. Standing there was a figure unlike anything he had ever seen. A tall woman with fur the color of silver and eyes that shone like firelight. Her ears were pointed like a fox, and her long tail swayed behind her. She looked otherworldly, yet there was no mistaking her beauty. Daniel froze, not knowing whether to speak or remain silent. The alien fox woman stepped forward slowly. Her movements were graceful but deliberate, and Daniel could sense she carried purpose. Without a word, she let the rain-soaked cloak slide from her shoulders and drop to the floor. Beneath it, she revealed herself with no shame, as if this act carried deep meaning among her kind. Daniel felt his breath catch. He turned his eyes away for a moment, out of respect, but curiosity pulled them back to her. She smiled at him softly, and that single gesture seemed to melt the fear in his chest. He managed to find his voice, asking her name. She spoke in broken but clear English, saying her name was Leora. She explained that she had traveled far, through dark skies and storms not of this earth, searching for a place to rest. Daniel realized then that she was no dream or vision. She was real, standing in his room with rain still dripping from her hair. Leora looked around the room as though she was seeing human life for the first time. She touched the wood of the table, the cloth of the chair, and the flame of the lamp with innocent wonder. Daniel noticed the way her fingers trembled slightly, not from cold, but from something unspoken. She was vulnerable, yet proud. She had crossed some boundary, and by doing so, placed her fate in his hands. Daniel offered her a blanket and turned his gaze away so she could wrap it around herself. She tilted her head at his politeness, her smile widening. She told him that, in her world, showing her form was a sign of trust and choice. By stepping into his room in such a way, she was telling him she had chosen him to be her protector, perhaps even more. Daniel struggled to understand the weight of her words, but he felt the truth in her voice. As the storm raged on, they sat together, speaking in halting words. She told him about her people, who were fox-like in form but carried the wisdom of centuries. They had watched Earth from afar, curious about its people. Yet something had driven her to come closer, something personal. She confessed that she had been banished from her clan because she sought a bond beyond her kind. She believed humans carried strength not found among her people, strength she wished to understand and share. Daniel listened with growing awe. He had lived a quiet life, never imagining such a tale could walk into his door. The way she spoke stirred something deep in him. He realized she was not here by chance. Their meeting had meaning, though he could not yet see its shape. As the night deepened, the storm slowly eased. The silence between them became less awkward, more like a bridge being built. Leora moved closer, her eyes never leaving his. She said softly that she had risked everything to be here. Daniel could see the mix of fear and hope in her gaze. He reached out, placing his hand gently on hers. Her fingers tightened around his, her tail flicking in what seemed like relief. The storm outside faded to nothing. But inside the room, a new storm was just beginning. It was not of wind or rain, but of hearts crossing boundaries that neither of them had expected. Leora smiled again, warmer this time, and Daniel felt something shift within him. The world he knew had opened, and standing at its center was the alien foxwoman who had chosen him. The hours passed quickly as they shared stories. Daniel told her about his small town, his family who had moved away, and the simple life he led. Leora told him of starships that sailed through oceans of light and forests of crystal that grew on her homeworld. Her voice carried music in it, even when her words faltered. Daniel found himself drawn not only to her form, but to her spirit, a mix of strength and tenderness that felt rare. By dawn, the rain had stopped, and the first light broke through the clouds. Daniel realized he was no longer afraid. The alien fox had walked into his life, dropped every barrier, and smiled. And he knew in that moment that he could never return to the quiet life he had known. Something greater had begun, and he would face it with her by his side.